Welcome to Texas Capitol Live. It's November 4th. We're live from Dallas, Texas. I'm Steve Kennard, the president of the AI Innovation Association. I'm joined by my co-host, Lee Bratcher, president of the Texas Blockchain Council, and our producer and entrepreneur in residence, JBA, also here today. And we're excited because this is kind of like the week of autonomous vehicles in Texas. For some time now, Austin has had people kind of testing things out. You go down there, you'll see a robo-taxi, you'll see a Waymo. This week we saw a big expansion, and we want to start out with showing a clip, an announcement from Uber, who has partnered with AV Ride to launch in Dallas. They've got a cool little video here of the vehicle, which we've seen them testing these out. Let's go ahead and play that and kind of check this out. So this is the expansion of autonomous vehicles in Texas, in Dallas. And Uber says here, your autonomous ride has arrived. We're thrilled to partner with AV Ride to expand our robo-taxi offerings starting today. So I went this morning, since it said starting today, I went to Uptown, to the Crescent, right in the middle of Uptown where this supposedly was, and I could not get an Uber autonomous car. So interestingly, you don't have an option in the Uber app to
toggle,
to specifically say, I'd like the autonomous car. So I just took a shot at it and just ordered one, and it was a person, and then I kind of had to cancel it and may have upset them. But, but look, I think this is a really cool offering. So my suggestion, my request from Uber, since it says we're live today, is add an option in the app. We'd love to go and be kind of the first ones to do this. We're sitting not a mile from where this service is supposed to be available. So I love to see the expansion, but if we're going to announce that it's launched, then let's actually launch it. That would be my feedback.
Yeah, add a way for the consumer to select autonomous or real driver.
Yeah.
Or not. Or maybe that's if you don't select it, then you just get the fastest available vehicle.
Yeah. I think those are three logical options. Then it'll be interesting to see over time, what does the pricing look like of these of the different options.
Yeah,
I think
let the market speak.
That's what we're hoping to track here. I think this is really cool. Like I said, forever I've been thinking Dallas and Houston to me are like the most logical autonomous vehicle markets really in the world, I would say, because you have huge city, booming population, complete and utter failure of public transit to add any real value. We're in a building here that's on the rail line here in Dallas. No one here has ever ridden the rail.
Yeah.
It's just not going to culturally work here. That's just a statement of fact. It's not a political statement. So I think that this is a killer market for this technology, and just Uber, make it a little easier to use the app. We're rooting for it. And hopefully we can have a video soon of us actually riding an autonomous vehicle in Dallas. Now, Uber's not the only one. Waymo, which has forever been very active in San Francisco, they've started to massively expand. They've announced a bunch of cities this week, including Dallas and Houston. And I think we have a post here from Waymo as well that we wanted to share. It says, milestone unlocked. We're now fully autonomous in Dallas, meaning no human driver at the wheel. So I went and I tried this one this morning as well. It comes back and says, you're not within our area of service right now. So Waymo, again, we're excited to see the announcement, but if we're going to make an announcement, then
should work.
It should probably work. So I'll see if I can try later this week, and maybe this will actually be fully implemented. Interestingly, Waymo, for this market at least, launching that within their own app. So Waymo has their own app you can use to order cars, and other markets they've collaborated with other third parties. And I think that makes a lot of sense. Different markets, you have different partners. It looks like, at least for this expansion here into Dallas and into Houston, it's going to be on their own app. One of the cool things about that is you have the option to choose different settings. So like if you have a certain kind of show maybe you'd like to watch, they have like a YouTube link because that's part of the Google ecosystem. And you can request a show if you have a certain temperature you like. And so there's cool optionality that they're building out in that app that they've learned, I think, over time with having this service available in San Francisco. Feels like it could be a differentiator for them. It's also part of why competition is great. So I love to see Uber here. I love to see Waymo coming. We'd love to see more Tesla robo-taxis and prove out what we were just saying here, which is DFW and Houston. I'm going to put DFW and Houston kind of together.
Yeah.
I think really have the potential to be the global capitals for accelerated adoption of autonomous vehicles, like at mass commercial scale.
That's right. And I think the next step is aerial transport.
Yeah.
Autonomous aerial transport for passengers who have a little bit longer commute.
That's going from sci-fi to reality quicker than most realize, and an interesting investment as well, because there's major dual use national security implications for that technology. So more capital being attracted from that angle as well. And again, Dallas is like logical
Perfect
place where something like that. Imagine once they have the aerial thing that it connects Love Field and DFW Airport, and you could go.
It's amazing. Yeah.
That would open up a whole new world of travel options, because I've struggled that route many times myself. So I can say I'm going to be one of the first to want to adopt that. So good point, Lee. So look, to wrap up on the autonomous vehicles, makes a ton of sense, and it's exciting to see new offerings coming to Dallas and Houston. But I think we jumped the gun a little bit here, kind of making announcements on X, and I'm like, great, I'd like to use your product. Actually, it's not really launched yet.
Not quite ready.
Hopefully soon enough, we can report back with a video proving that this is in fact fully up and running in Dallas, and cheer that adoption along. And I'd like to see it expand beyond just uptown and downtown. But I understand you want to start with a smaller area, grow it over time. So I think that's really bullish. Love to see Dallas continue to lead in this area. We want to pivot now to something that's been in the headlines for a while. This started going back to the One Big Beautiful Bill debate and really the fiasco around that, frankly. And I think something that got lost was what's been deemed the Trump accounts. This was an idea the administration had. I think going back to the election, they kind of had talked about this idea of establishing these Trump accounts for newborn babies that would essentially be like an investment account that is funded at birth with a government investment, compounds over time, tied to, I think most talk has been around the S&P 500 index. And then when they come of age, when they turn 18, those funds would be made available for specific types of expenses. I think the two primary ones being education and homeownership. So this idea, I think, has been pretty well received. I'm pretty hesitant generally to see the government doing much of anything.
My initial thought was, are we talking about having government investment and basically expanding monetary policy now to pump the stock market in the near term at the expense of those babies when they become adults having a high inflationary environment and an unsustainable debt?
This is a valid concern.
Yeah, there's no other way to look at it than that.
Yeah. So
doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just that's how it is.
There's two sides to the coin here, and where is that funding coming from? Is it inflationary? I think it's hard to argue that it's not, given the ridiculous deficit that we run.
Except for these donations that we're about to talk about.
That's what's made this interesting. So on the heels of the Trump account kind of being announced, big headline from Texan Michael Dell, who said he's going to step up with a $6.25 billion donation from his personal foundation. Now, one of the interesting things here, the Trump accounts are for newborns starting next year, which I guess I have an interest in since our fourth is due at the end of January. So I'll report back on this Trump account, guys. This is interesting, though, because that program's launching $1,000 next year for kids born next year. The idea that the Dell Foundation has had to come alongside, support that program, but to also make some of these accounts available for children 10 and under right now. So you're open. There's a kind of a separate group of people that would be eligible for these accounts.
If the median income in that zip code is lower than 150,000.
Okay, I missed that.
I thought that was an interesting piece. So
okay, good piece of information.
10 and under, or maybe it was just under 10. I don't know if it's 10 under or under 10, but you have to live in a zip code where the median income is under 150K.
Okay. So that's an interesting, I may be disqualified for that.
No, 75080 is okay. Not the median income in our zip code is like 92 or something.
Okay, well, there you go. How many? So that's an interesting other thing we could look up.
How many zip codes have a median income of over 150K? Yeah. Probably just like downtown New York and San Francisco.
Highland Park, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think this is interesting. This adds up to $250 per kid. So you've got a $1,000 Trump account. That's the federal government. You've got Michael Dell coming in saying he's going to make this personal donation. That's another $250. I think it's going to be interesting to see what other billionaires step into this.
Yeah.
And look, I'm sympathetic to the idea behind this, and frankly, I'm kind of rooting for it because I think one of the primary political issues of our time is the lack of participation from the younger generations in the private enterprise system. I think that's a lot of what's driving the rise of socialism in places like New York, where people are priced out of housing. The inflation and the cost of, frankly, everything is completely out of control. And that creates an animosity towards private enterprise. And so the flip side of that is, how do you create a system that broadens the participation in the long-term compounding returns in that system? And that's been a lot of the messaging from Michael Dell and his wife, who both kind of administer this foundation, around why they think this is so important and want to support the idea of these Trump accounts. Now, there's another layer to this, and that's here at the state level in Texas, because not long after this announcement was made by Michael Dell, we had a post from the Lieutenant Governor, Dan Patrick, that I want to read, and let's see if we can get that up on the screen.
There it is.
It says, "I love President Trump's idea to invest $1,000 for every American newborn child. That cannot be spent until age 18 and must be used for education and other qualifying expenses." It says, "I applaud Texans like Michael and Susan Dell for giving President Trump another $6.25 billion to help with the program." And so he goes on now to say, "If I see a great idea from the president that helps Texans, my first question is always, why not do it in Texas too? A baby is born about every 90 seconds in Texas. That's about 1,000 per day, or just under 400,000 per year for the last several years." The Lieutenant Governor says, "One of my top priorities in the 2027 legislative session will be to pass the, quote, new Little Texan Savings Fund, unquote, to give newborn Texans an additional $1,000 each invested in the S&P 500 as aligned with the federal program. Adding that to the president's program, newborn Texans will receive a total of $2,000 plus any additional funds contributed by their family as allowed under the Trump plan." This is an important comment here, the Lieutenant Governor kind of addressing the fiscal concerns around this. This new initiative will cost our budget about $400 million per year. That is about 1% or less of our total state appropriation. So I'll stop there. I have to express kind of two areas of concern around this. The first is, if you create an attraction for more people to come externally, potentially illegally, and have children here through this kind of incentive, I think you could have a major misappropriation of funds. We already know that some significant number of these births here in Texas are from illegal migration. I expect that to be a big political issue as this continues to be discussed, is just who's going to qualify for these, and how is there going to be an accounting and a sort of investigation around what you have to do to qualify. So that's number one. Number two, I expect there'll be more discussion as well around, everything here has been geared towards the S&P 500. And so there's a question around, okay, if that's the singular kind of investment thesis behind this, whether it's the Trump accounts or their state accounts, it begs the question of, it's an incentive for companies to just get bigger and bigger.
That's a problem.
Because the S&P 500 rewards bigness, not return on investment. In fact, it has underperformed the Mag 7 materially, right?
Yeah, they need to broaden that out, I think. They need to look at a way to expand that to the top, 3,000 publicly traded companies. There's probably only 3,000. There's about 3,500, I think, publicly traded companies.
But it's dwindling all the time, which is one of our big problems.
Yeah. You can't just pick the top 500, and that's like state intervention almost.
I don't personally know what the solution is, but it jumps out at me that at some point, if we're going to go down this road, that question is going to be asked more and more. Are there really only 500 companies in America that qualify for this? How many of them are based in Texas?
And are we keeping some zombie companies in the S&P 500 artificially that wouldn't be there otherwise?
There's a deep analysis and discussion to be had around that. That is this the end all and be all, the S&P 500? I think the flip side of that is saying, look, this has been around forever. It's established. There's a track record behind it, and it has returned. I think it's about 7% if you take some long-term outlook on the past performance of the S&P 500. And if you compound that over time, you get the math that has been discussed from President Trump and others, saying that, $1,000 compounded over time by the time they're 18 is actually a material amount to jumpstart someone's life into that kind of next chapter of their life. I remain skeptical, but but open to continuing the discussion.
It's an interesting concept. I think the donations from billionaires is a pretty
love it
positive thing across the board. If it weren't for that, I would be highly skeptical as well. Now I'm just modestly skeptical and convincible, I think. It did say, I mean, did a little research on AI here. About 2% of U.S. households have median incomes over 150,000. So the Dell's donation would be available to 98% of zip codes. That doesn't mean 98% of people, children, but about 98% of zip codes across the country. What I would be fascinating, and JBA, you may look this up for us, is as we think about this contribution, what percentage of the total market cap of a company in the S&P 500 might be made up of investments from non-legal age folks between 0 and 18.
Didn't even think about that. And then the question becomes, how are those shares being voted
in the proxy?
What's the proxy process?
Yeah, exactly.
There are numerous wrinkles to be worked out here, but I do like your comment, Lee, that at least on the private donations, this first big one from the Dell family, probably more to follow. Hard to be against that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
good stuff.
That's awesome. And getting people younger invested in a system of private enterprise, I have nothing but love and support for that. Questions to be answered though on the broader program. So I feel like we're going to return back to this, because expect next week and the week after to have announcements from other major, business magnates like a Dell that say, if he's going to do it, we're going to step up too. Okay, and then we start having these broader discussions around how is this all really going to work. But we'll keep up with that. All right, JBA, do we have kind of a check-in on sort of the ask the markets, the prediction markets, what's going on in the world of Polymarket and Kalshi? What are people talking about? We wanted to look in on that before we wrap up here.
Yeah, absolutely. What I found really fascinating from our last show was the Fed decision turnaround. So we were sitting here, and it was looking like a 25% basis point cut, and or 25 basis point cut, and it switched on us, and then it switched on us again. So we're at a pretty high likelihood, a 92% likelihood that we're going to have a 25 basis point cut, which was, a week ago did not seem the case.
That's a wild chart, and you can see the sort of because today the market's relatively calm, kind of close to flat. So we went through a major sort of gyration here about all the AI bubble popping and all of this, and so I think you see that flowing through to the expectations on what is the Fed going to do, how are they going to intervene in this market. But you talk about a whiplash here. I mean, look at that. It's all the way up into the 90% now, over 90% for a 25 basis point cut, but you had seen it come all the way down to being not expected and then back up. So
if only you'd put that bet in when it was 50-50 for the 25 basis point cut, you would be in the money right now.
That was a big move. And there's significant volume, like tens of millions in outstanding on this decision by the Fed. So it's not small money.
No.
That's kind of behind this expectation. I think that's important too. The more people you have, collectively putting their money where their mouth is, the more confidence one could have in this expectation. So it's hard at this point to say that we're not going to settle on the 25 basis point outcome.
Yeah, some of the other traditional Bloomberg markets on this that aren't really prediction markets, they're kind of like pundits and economists, have it at about 87%. So I'm interested in kind of that delta there. Where are the prediction markets more accurate, or are the kind of traditional pundits more accurate? I tend to think prediction markets are more accurate.
I'm with you on that, and it's an interesting thing too. You have these kind of these Ivy League professors in New York that used to just tell you what they thought, and we had to pretend like that mattered. And now more and more of them are probably being driven by this chart itself. So how much of the how much of the prediction they're making is being driven by the prediction market itself? Thought it was interesting this week that CNN moved to make Kalshi the official prediction markets of their kind of news coverage. Talk about a watershed moment and kind of the punditry class. I think CNN was the epitome of the punditry class, right? And so even they have cried uncle and kind of brought in the prediction market. So expect more of that.
So I mean, I guess the question now is, what are capital markets at this point? Like, I mean, not now, but I mean, in the future, 5 years from now, if everyone's just betting on Polymarket or Kalshi or another, a market, and if they're, because I also saw that they're now doing where you can bet on earnings or bet on whatever. Yeah. It's like, okay, well, then what are the markets? Like, does it at some point just divulge into the degens are the market now, or what?
I share this concern where the emergence of this new type of market is like, it's like you can't look away from it. It's almost like the car wreck when you're when you're driving by. Some of it is very informative, like when it comes to this Fed decision, but then a lot of it is just, frankly, kind of nonsense.
Yeah,
and you're getting to a point not far off where you could actually expect that, like, the outstanding open interest around like what a CEO will say in some earnings call is going to rival the actual amount of like investment in the enterprise itself. Hard to see how that's a net win.
And there could be some insider trading on that too.
Well, another thing, also in New York Times, their event, Brian Armstrong was asked about him saying all the words that people were going to bet on him saying on Polymarket. And, I think a fair question asked was, what are your thoughts on that? And I think that's is that insider trading? I mean, because I think it's another thing where at the beginning of these prediction markets, only people like me who were on Twitter and knew about it were betting on this stuff. But now that Jerome Powell knows about Polymarket, now that people who are being betted on know about it, how do you deal with that?
Like, does their spouse go in and make a big bet and say, like, yeah, he is going to say these 3 words because I've seen his speech?
Right. It feels like some scandal is going to come to the surface eventually. Yeah. Like this kind of can't continue on precisely like it is. So something worth keeping an eye on. And hey, at least it's a constant source of interesting market information. And I think that at this point is what's not deniable. I mean, we went through a phase of I think like a reticence and kind of outright dislike by the legacy markets of this new prediction markets thing. Like, that's untouchable. Don't talk about it. It is very much in the mainstream now, with what we're seeing, both from CNN and the New York Stock Exchange investing in it. And so we'll continue to talk about it, even if it if it draws kind of moral hazard questions. But that's like every other financial market as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you got things like tonight. I mean, a little bit of a fun bit here, less moral hazard, or actually probably equal amounts of moral hazard. The Dallas Cowboys are somehow, okay, wait, I'm seeing 52-49. When you click into it, though, it's different. Yeah, you're right, 39-61.
Yeah, it changed on you again.
It changed on me.
Yeah.
Who was betting? When I looked at that, I was like, the Cowboys have a 52% chance of beating the Lions. Like, no way. No.
These markets move like wildly.
Yeah.
As the game approaches.
I would have bet on the Lions at that point to get the line on the Cowboys. I'm a Cowboys fan, as we all probably are here. So you have fun things like that too. But you also have to be on the lookout for kind of some of that insider stuff that we've seen in the NBA and in other professional sports. Polymarket did, though, just launch their U.S. app. I downloaded it yesterday. It is #1 on the App Store. I am on the wait list, as are tens of thousands of other people. It was kind of a marketing gimmick. They could have not had a wait list, right? This is software. You didn't need a wait list.
That's my question. Why is there a wait list?
It's a marketing gimmick.
I have I want to say this is really interesting. I might bet on this. I don't know if y'all saw ChatGPT or OpenAI said they're going to start releasing ads so you can actually run ads in prompts when people type about stuff. So I have a theory that this might become more relevant than like Facebook ads for like e-commerce businesses. Maybe. I mean,
but did they let you know it's an ad? Because if it comes up in the response, that's
I don't know.
About moral hazard.
I don't know. They might label it as like sponsor ad or something. But will they release it by December 3rd? I don't know. That'd be interesting.
That's difficult to say by December 31st of this year. But by next year, it has to be like by the end of next year, it has to be a near certainty.
Yeah.
Given the scrutiny around underwriting all of these CapEx investments in massive infrastructure.
They got to make some money.
Yeah. The charged people $20 a month and they're going to cut it. So
no, but they've got to really be careful about where they put those ads.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're thinking about that. If they're not, they're crazy.
Yeah, that is an interesting chart, kind of the speculation around what that looks like. I mean, this is, if you were going to try to make a big splash in the holiday season, it would be very lucrative. But at the same time, to your point, Lee, I know the CEO, Sam Altman, has said before he doesn't like ads, he doesn't want to do it. It brings in all these questions. Like, he's addressed those very concerns of how do you keep the integrity of the underlying system if your economic incentive is to give preference to some things purely based on like a pay-for-play type of thing. So I don't know the answer to that either. What a time to be alive.
What a time to be alive.
In the markets. Well, look, this has been really interesting. Exciting times for Texas, just the innovation and everything coming here. So we want to continue to root all of that on and appreciate some of these interesting points that you were able to bring up on the prediction market stuff as well, JBA. So thank you.